Hey everybody, we're talking about probability today, and we're talking about simple probability. Can you see me? Can you see me now? Can you hear me now? Can you see it now? Can you almost see me? Let me stand right here. All right, very good. Hi, I'm back. We're talking about probability today. Probability is a chance that something is going to occur, and it's expressed as a ratio. It is usually, I'm going to check that, it's always a value between 0 and 1. So it can be a percent, it can be a ratio, it can be a decimal, but the value must always be between 0 and 1. I like to use vocabulary to describe probability because it helps you to remember it. You're always going to see a ratio represented by what the events are and what the possible outcomes are. And that's why I wrote that as kind of like a fraction. An event is what you want to happen. So if I wanted to roll a 6 on a number cube, if that's what I want to happen, that's what's going to be my numerator, how many times that 6 is going to pop up on that number cube. And we'll talk about that in a minute. My possible outcome, my bottom number in my fraction, my ratio, is going to symbolize what other possible numbers can be rolled on a number cube. For example, there is a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6 on a number cube. So there are 6 possible outcomes, 6 possible things that can happen if I roll that number cube. So my answer, if I was looking for the probability of rolling a 6, it would be 1 out of 6. There's 1 6 out of 6 possible numbers. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And actually, I'm going to ask you to pause if you need to jot things down, because I'm going to move to the whiteboard and show you guys some examples. And these are going to be examples of simple probability. Alrighty, we're going handheld here. So I'm holding this camera. If it's a little shaky, I do apologize. This is going to be a little weird, so I'm going to be one-handing some things here. So we're talking about using a number cube, and there's one right next to me, right in front of you, and you see that it is actually on its 6 side. So there you go, a little extreme close-up. And if I were to ask you, what is the probability of rolling a 6? And this is how I would characterize that. I would write a large P and a 6 in parentheses. I want to say, what's the probability of rolling a 6? Well, there's only 1 6. And if I flip it a bunch of times and look at all the faces of that number cube, I see that I have different numbers. There are no tricks to this. I think we've seen all the numbers. There you go. And since there's only 1 6, I'm going to have to say that there's only 1 6. That's my event. And I have 6 possible outcomes. And I'm just going to call that possible outcomes PO. So my answer is 1/6. So 1/6 is my answer. What if I said, what is the probability, I'll move down here, what's the probability of rolling an even number? Well, that's a little bit different. What do we have on here that can be considered even? I have a 6, but what else? I have a 2. And I also have a, where is it? I have a 4. So that's 3 values that I like as my events. So I have 3 events out of 6 possible outcomes, and my answer would be 3 out of 6. And that can be simplified to 1/2. So that's all fine and dandy. I'm going to do a little bit of erasing here, if I can find my eraser. You're still looking at notes. They're upside down. No, they're not. Let me erase some of this here while my cart rolls away. What if we were talking about decks of cards? So I have a deck of cards here. And if you know anything about a deck of cards, you know that you have 52 cards in a deck. I'm going to write that down because I don't know if you know that or not. So 52 cards in a deck of cards. So what if I said to you, what is the probability of choosing a black card? Well, you have to know something about a deck of cards. Half the deck is black and half the deck is red. So what's half of 52? Do you know why I wrote 52 as my denominator? Think about how many cards are in a deck of cards. So that's got to be my number of possible outcomes. And this is my event number. My event number, because that's how many of those colored cards, black cards, are in a deck of cards. My answer is 26 out of 52. However, I can't write it as such. I had to simplify that. And I know that, and you might not know this, but 26 fits into 52 two times. And since I said before that half the deck is black and half the deck is red, then 1/2 is going to be my answer. So the probability of picking a black card is going to be 1/2. What if I said something like the probability of choosing a king? Well, the probability of choosing a king, you have to know something about a deck of cards as well. There are 4 suits, and there are, let me try to see if I can draw them here. I've got clubs, you've got hearts, you've got diamonds, and you've got spades. So you have 4 suits. Now in each one of those suits you have a king. Can't see that, sorry about that. So I have 4 kings out of how many cards? There you go. Both of these numbers are divisible by 2, and actually they're both divisible by 4. So my final answer will be 1 out of 13. Now we haven't talked too much about the words that mean probability, but there are a few of them, and I want to come back to our work in just a second. Let me scoot over here and I'll show you some of them. I know you can't see it. Let me show you. There you go. So there are a number of words that we can use to describe different kinds of probability. And when we have something that we know is 100%, we can call it certain. And just the opposite, when we have something that we know is never going to happen, we can call it impossible. If something is a coin flip, like heads or tails, then we call that equally likely. And your likely and unlikely kind of fall in the middle of those. And you don't have to have values for those, but we know it's more than 50%. And we know that unlikely is, oh, excuse me, I wrote that wrong. Don't tell anybody, we'll fix it. Nobody will know. And unlikely is less than 50%. So we can use some of these terms to describe some of our probability ratios to the right. So let's take a look. It looks like picking a black card would be kind of an equally likely chance because it's about 50%. If you take a look at your probability of picking a king, it's not very likely to happen because 1 out of 13, if I had to guess, would be somewhere around 7%, maybe 7 point something percent, whereas 1/2 would be 50%. So we can see how very different they might be. I look forward to trying some other examples with you guys in class. We have lots of activities planned. Look forward to using some cards, maybe using some dice and playing some games. But I think right now, I'll leave you guys to study. If you have any questions, bring them up in class. Have a great day.